Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Morning Quarterback. Gilberto Manzano and I, Matt Verderame, recording and coming to you here on December 18th. It is Wednesday morning. There is a lot of football ahead this week. Of course, no bye weeks as we are in the home stretch. So 16 games starting on Thursday, then two on Saturday, then a whole bunch on Sunday, and then one on Monday. So you are set. That and the college football playoff. So there's enough football really that if you're not getting your fill, you might have an issue. Um, Before we get into everything, there's a lot to get into. Playoff picture stuff, Mahomes' ankle, Super Bowl favorites, the Lions injuries. How you doing? What's going on, man?
I'm doing well, Matt, but I hate to be the negative guy on the show, and I think you might agree with me. But a lot of people are like, "Yeah, more football. We love football. We need football every day, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday." And I'm like, "Oh, there goes my weekend. I got to work on a Wednesday. All my stories are due on Monday. Okay, more football." But I'm kind of like a creature of habit, and I like Thursdays and Mondays and Sundays, not Wednesdays and Saturdays. But okay.
I I feel like this time of year, like a couple weekends, I'm cool with it because it's different and it's fun. The Wednesday's an absolute disaster.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Like the fact that I got to sit there on Christmas Day, and to your credit, God bless you, you're the one taking up work that day. Okay. So everybody out there should know Gil's the man because he voluntarily was like, I'll take that bullet. Um, where me, for a lot of people who listen know this, I grew up a Chiefs fan, and so I will just be sitting there in emotional pain for 3 hours as they and the Steelers are having a race to 10 points um, in a game between two teams that the magic that both of them have conjured up this year is something really that's going to be studied for 100 years. Um, but yes, like I don't mind Saturday, a couple weekends of the year, the NFL playing on Saturday. Wednesday's an absolute disaster. I'm with you 100% there. And look, so let's start there. Let's go there. So the Texans, the Ravens, Chiefs, the Steelers, they all play on the Saturday, and then they all play on Christmas. Obviously, almost like a round robin format, essentially. Um, Do you think that it is unfair to these teams to have to play this stretch? Because it's not all that different from a Thursday stretch, right? I mean, it's a little different in the sense you have two short weeks in a row because you're playing Saturday and not a Sunday. And it's late in the year now, obviously. Do you think it's unfair to these teams, or do you think it's fair? It's just obnoxious.
I think it's a little bit of both, obnoxious and also unfair, going from the 6 day short week, like that even matters. Just having losing one day from your regular routine and then going to I know the 4 day turnaround. I know it's weird from a Saturday to a Wednesday, but it's still like Thursday night football. But to do that kind of on a 3 game stretch, like you really think about it, what is it, 3 games in 11 days? Like that
Yes.
doesn't sound pretty. Like I'm sure your body could tell and your body's going to know the difference there. So, yeah, I think Chris Jones was the one that said it a couple weeks ago when it was a Black Friday game. Hey, why not a second bye week? You're going to be doing these things like that and trying to accommodate, I guess your TV ratings and your advertisers and TV executives. So, I don't get that part. And then, and I'll probably give you two more takeaways, and then maybe it'll lead into Mahomes talk. But the second one is like the product is getting worse. Like you're telling people, okay, do this, do that, and at some point it's like, okay, well, you're messing people's routine, their practice habits, things that they get ready for a game. And honestly, I hate to be that guy to say, oh, football stinks, or the officials are ruining everything. Like I try to avoid all that talk and just kind of, okay, what did we watch today? But it was kind of a brutal slate last week when I thought it was gonna be a very good week of Bills and Lions and Steelers and Eagles, and I'm like, what was their best game? Commanders and the Saints. And then people like Connor wrote a good story to break it down how sloppy the football has been. But officiating, a frozen clock, it just kind of been all over the place. So maybe that's something too, where you're kind of changing all these schedules around. But obviously, the body and the wear and tear is the biggest part there. And then, but like if you want to get more TV ratings on and put your product out there a little more, like maybe you're diminishing the product in that point. So, and part of me. I think you've been on this. I think Mahomes going to play. He was full participant on Tuesday. We'll see how he is on Wednesday. But what if he doesn't play these 2 games here on prime time? And it's like, here you go, NFL. Right. You wanted him on the Peacock streaming service. You wanted him on Netflix. Well, here you go, Carson Wentz, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, Carson Wentz to save the day. Yeah, look, I'm with you. Like, so I think Mahomes is going to play. I felt that way the whole time because I was watching when he got hurt in Cleveland, and it was pretty obvious he could have came back in the game. They were like, there's no reason. Like Dorian Thompson Robinson is down 14 points with 3 minutes left. We don't need to play Patrick Mahomes. I have just seen the guy over the years get hurt, and it doesn't matter. I remember the first time he got seriously hurt, which was in Denver on that quarterback sneak when he dislocated his kneecap and he missed 2 games. He never missed a practice. Like he's never missed a practice since he's been in the NFL. So, when I saw these takes on Monday morning about, yeah, they should sit him the rest of the regular season, I was like, what are you talking about? He's not going to let them do that. I mean, he could have broke his ankle, and that might be the one way, like that he was finally just going to have to sit down. Like, there's just no way he was going to have to. Once Andy went to the podium on Sunday after the game and said, "Yeah, listen, it's not broken," I'm like, "Oh, he's going to play." It's just who he is. But to your point, and it's a very good one. And Connor, you're right. He wrote an excellent piece about this. Like, I think a lot of it this time of year with the NFL is two-pronged. One is a lot of these really good teams, they are worn out because they're just going and going and going and going. And it's a little bit of a slog, especially if you know you're in the playoffs and it's about seeding. As analysts or as fans, we'll sit here and talk about seeding. A lot of times in the buildings, they don't care. I mean, they if they can be the 1 seed, they care because then they get a week off. They don't care if they're the 2 or the 3 seed. They don't care if they're the 3 or the 4 seed. Like they don't. I think that is much more like stuff for us to talk about. But if you ask a lot of players, like, do you care if you're the 2 or the 3? No, not really. Because, yeah, sure, they love being at home, but like, it's not like they're getting an extra week. The 1 seed matters because they get the week. That is far more important to those guys than being at home. Is that they get a week off, they get the rest. And like a guy like Mahomes right now, a week off would be obviously great. It'd be big for him. Um, but yes, I agree with you. And I think the other reason, though, these games are kind of ragged toward the end of the year, and I felt like this for years. The teams that are bad, they're just they're done, man. They're ready to go play golf and go to Cancun. They don't, like you watch the Bears on Monday night,
Ugh.
and you're like they are so disinterested in this. They don't even care. Like they care in the sense that they're professionals and like it's on tape and all that stuff, but like they don't care. I mean, it's like, yeah, we're not going anywhere. You watch that Raiders Falcons game. Oh my God. I mean, it was like neither one of them cared, and the Falcons are still in the playoff race. Which, by the way, we should get to here right off the jump before we go any further. So let's see, it's Wednesday. So on Tuesday night, came out, Falcons are benching Kirk Cousins. They're going to Michael Penix Jr. They are still in the race here. They're 7-7. They are a game back at Tampa. They own the tiebreaker. So, because they swept Tampa earlier this year. And Tampa, the schedule for the Bucks is favorable. They have the Cowboys on the road on a Sunday night this weekend. And then they play the Panthers, who are playing better, but still, the Panthers. And then the Saints at home. Obviously, if you're the Bucks, you would think, hey, we should be able to sweep these. If they do, they win the division. There's nothing Atlanta can do about it. Atlanta's last 3 games, just to button this up, also somewhat advantageous, but not as advantageous. They also get the Panthers at home. They have the Giants at home this weekend, but they have to play at the Commanders, which is now a Sunday night game, got flexed right there in week 17. So Buccaneers certainly in a good position. But now Penix getting the job. What are your, I mean, there's a lot of layers, but just off the jump, what was your reaction when you saw that?
Yeah, I think, it says a lot about Kirk Cousins and I guess, what he has left
Yeah,
as a quarterback because they tried their hardest to keep that job for Kirk Cousins. And like, okay, here's a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan. We're going to have Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed and $62 million this year. You don't just pay that, for, what, 12, 14 games. You're thinking maybe long term, 1, 2 years. And then you draft Michael Penix Jr. You wanted to have the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love scenario. They tried their hardest, I'm guessing, from the ownership to the GM to the coach. And at some point, maybe somebody came to the senses. Maybe it was Zach Robinson, the OC, and saying, you know what, he can't throw deep, he can't move around. What plays do you want me to call here for Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson? So I don't even think it was about just playoff race. Like I'm sure that they know they're still in it. They're one game behind. They need some help from Tampa Bay. But like, all right, if you're not gonna make the playoffs, F it. What do you have, Michael Penix Jr.? Because this guy's clearly not gonna make it another year. So let's see what you're about. Can like even if you're kind of like I'm not gonna say that they're as bad as the Patriots, but at least with Drake May, you see something. Okay, the Patriots stink,
Yeah,
but Drake
right.
May is something. We have something to work with. So you want to know that. So I like it from that standpoint. It's a little too late for me. I wish he would have came in after that Chargers game. Play against Minnesota. You never know what could have happened right now. But yeah, they had a 4-game losing streak. They barely survived against Desmond Ritter's revenge game, I guess, against the Raiders. That was terrible, like you mentioned, Matt. But yeah, I guess maybe not even putting playoff into the mindset. It's more like, okay, what do you have? Because Kirk Cousins clearly doesn't have much left to offer.
So, look, everything said's right. Okay, we're in lockstep here, Gil. I would point out, like, I'm going to go to the because I don't really have anything to add to that, and I think you're right. I'm going to go to this part of it. So, Kirk Cousins signed a 4-year, $180 million contract this offseason, past offseason, and half it was fully guaranteed. So this year's cap number, usually these contracts escalate as they go, and this is no different. So his cap number this year is 25 million. Next year it's 40, and then it's followed by 2 years of 57.5. Now, the back 2 years are not a problem. Okay, the back 2 years, the Falcons can get out of. Now, they're gonna have to eat some money. Okay, I mean he's gonna have a dead money hit of 25 million in 2026. It's not like they're just getting out of scot free. But with the cap going up and everything else, and Penix on a rookie deal, like they can eat it. Next year is a lot different. He's going to be on the roster next year. There's no way they're trading him because I just don't see a team acquiring him. His base is 27.5, which is not bad, but like, is anybody really going to go get Kirk Cousins next year and pay him? I don't see it. Um, I I mean, if they post June want him, they would eat 40 million and not save a dime. Now you could argue, hey, do that because you're eating the cap number anyway of 40 million. So you could argue, look, just get him off the roster because it's a weird situation. Okay. Um, Look, the bottom line is that Cousins contract is a disaster. You paid him to go 7-7, and you paid him 90 million bucks guaranteed. And you're going to have to eat money next year, potentially year after, depending on which way they go with this whole thing. Although I shouldn't say potentially, it's going to be the year after too, no matter what. Even if they post you and want them, they got to split the money over 2 years. So you're eating money next couple of years for a sunk cost at this point, because I think we can all agree once they went to Penix, there's no going back. You can't play Penix for the end of this year and then 3 games next year and then go back to. I mean that's a train wreck. Now you've wasted your first round pick from a year ago in Penix and Cousins. I don't blame them for making the move. Cousins looks physically like he can't throw the ball anymore, and sometimes that happens. Now, look, I'm not comparing the two players; they're totally different guys, obviously, in terms of what they accomplished in the NFL. Peyton Manning was like that. Like I remember Peyton Manning. Now he had the neck surgeries and everything. I remember distinctly watching Peyton Manning in the last year or two of his career, just being, oh my God, he can't throw the ball. I mean, he just could not throw at all. But because he was Peyton Manning, he was able to elongate that as long as possible. Cousins, obviously, a good player, is not Manning. I don't blame them for making the move. I also think, though, that in the end, if you're Terry Fontenot, the GM in Atlanta, you got to own this and be like, look, we took a big swing. And not only did we miss, but the bat came around and hit us in the back of the head. I mean, this is as bad as it gets. Because now what happens is let's say Penix is good. Well, it doesn't really matter either way, I guess. But let's say he's good. It makes it more painful. Like, you now can't take full advantage of his rookie deal because you're paying another quarterback huge money. Normally you have that rookie deal like the Texans right now. It's Stroud. And you can go out and get a Stephon Diggs and go out and get Danielle Hunter. You can do those things. The Falcons can't. They're hamstrung by this massive contract they gave to Cousins. So, look, I think it's the right move. I also think it is a calamity of a deal for Kirk Cousins. And I think it is a very impactful problem that they're going to have the next couple of years because if Penix is good and you're trying to like get to that Super Bowl, get over that hump, you can't. At least not in the way that you normally would with a rookie deal. So it leaves Atlanta in a tough spot.
Yeah, I'll just say this because I'm pretty annoyed about seeing this. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, credit to the Falcons for being ready here for drafting Michael Penix Jr. They're set at quarterback. They were prepared for this scenario." Yeah, what cost after everything you laid out, man? Like they had to pay all this money for this guy to play 14 games and then flame out. Yeah, I don't want to give Atlanta credit here for being prepared, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's not. Yeah, that's a good point too. All these people now, and I've seen like, a lot of these analytical people out in our space who are like, "This goes to show Land did the right thing." No, it does not. Okay, I know it does not. First of all, Penix might stink, and then it's a total disaster. Okay, Penix also has a long injury history, so if he goes out and gets hurt a bunch, I don't want to hear like, "Well, that's bad luck." It's not bad luck. Like it's something you knew was a risk going into it. I hope for Michael Penix Jr. ends up playing really well. I loved watching him play at Washington. I think he's got a ton of talent. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was great. I wrote about him for us at the Senior Bowl. I thought he did a hell of a job. But this is not good process. This idea that it's like, well, the Falcons doubled down. That's that's like going out and buying two cars and saying, well, this way, if one of them's a lemon, I'm in good shape. Well, you
Yeah.
bought two cars. Like, it's not good process. It's terrible process. So the Falcons get no grace out of me on this one.
What is Underdog? Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Just call your shot by picking higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats. Underdog is for everyone, so you can make a play with only $1 or go big and win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are ice cold? Make your picks in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. Try Red Zone Rush, a game that you're not going to find anywhere else. Just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping right for yes and left for no. It's as simple as that. Plus, your entry will be automatically boosted and you'll get a 51% profit boost when you play. Join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog with their Pick'em game, and you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em, so sign up now and deposit using promo code MMQB to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Now, I'm not a gambler, but I have friends who are on Underdog, and they love it because it's easy. You don't have to learn about all the jargon. You don't have to learn about overs and unders and stats and all this kind of different stuff. You can just pick higher or lower. You can just pick whether or not a team's going to score or not. It's a good intro app. Download the app today and use code MMQB to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's MMQB for $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog. You must be 18 years or older, 19 in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 in Colorado for some games, 21 and older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Are you concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369.
All right, let's pivot. Let's talk about the big games this week. The teams that are playing for a lot. Let's start with Thursday night. First of all, you going to the game Thursday night?
Yeah, actually, I'll be there. SoFi, Broncos, Chargers.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Broncos, Chargers, both teams 8-6. Chargers lost a couple in a row here. They got blown out by Tampa last week. The Broncos played basically a de facto playoff game against Indianapolis. They won the game. We can get to Anthony Richardson if we like at some point here. Anthony Richardson was brutal in that game. Brutal for anyone who didn't see it. And Nick Bonino also scored one of the more hilarious touchdowns you'll ever see on a throwback that went very wrong. But Denver wins. They're 8-6. If they win, they clinch a playoff spot. The Chargers, they have to win and get I think like Miami has to lose. Maybe the Colts have to lose. But there's potential they could clinch. Denver clinches outright if they just win. They don't need any help. What are you looking for in this game on Thursday night between these two AFC West rivals?
I guess for the Chargers, like, are they healthy? Do they have enough players? Can you
Yeah.
field the roster to compete with a I know the Broncos are not the Chiefs and the Bills, but they're a complete team, a balanced roster, and they're well coached and they're healthy for the most part. That the Chargers are not healthy, and they had a roster already to begin with that you needed everybody to compete. You needed everybody to, at least in the playoff picture, to make some noise here. So yeah, and then Justin Herbert, like, how healthy is he? Like, either he's not playing well or his offensive line is not giving him time. The interior of the offensive line is very bad. You have Ladd McConkey if he's healthy, and that's about it. You don't have any running backs right now because J.K. Dobbins went out. And then I always thought the Chargers defense was getting a little too much praise. They're a little overrated, but then when you face the Bengals, the Ravens, or the Buccaneers, you got lit up. So how good are you really? And, they're older on the front and they're younger on the back end. So, it's just, they're well coached, and I like that Jim Harbaugh is focusing on the right things that you want to do on a football team. The both sides of the trenches. You want to be physical. You want to run the football. You want to protect your quarterback. But they're not doing that right now. They were doing it a little earlier in the season, but again, once the health thing or the injuries came, you don't have enough depth. You don't have enough experienced players. You don't have enough talent either. So I'm not gonna treat I'm not gonna treat the Broncos like they're these very talented team. Like, I still have my questions about them, but they're rolling right now, and they have a good defense, and they have a quarterback who's able to overcome 3 interceptions because they have good coaching and not like I don't want to say good weapons, but good enough weapons, and at least they're healthy. So kind of a weird game, but I'm gonna take the Broncos here because I just don't trust anything the Chargers are doing right now without being healthy.
Yeah, so this is it's a good way to set it up. It's a weird game in my opinion because on one hand, you have two very good coaches. Um, the Chargers defensively have not been the same team in recent weeks. When they have played teams that are good teams, they have given up a lot of yards and a lot of points. Tampa lit them up. The Chiefs didn't light them up, but the Chiefs moved the ball and they needed to move the ball in the game. And certainly the Chiefs are not a ball fire offensively. The Ravens lit them up. Cincinnati lit them up. Like, they have struggled, and that Cam Hart probably going to be out this week with a concussion. I loved Cam Hart coming out of college. I love that pick for the Chargers, and he's played well. He's been a nice piece for them out of Notre Dame. If he can't go, which you would assume he can on a short week with a concussion, you're asking a lot of that secondary, because that secondary right now is Derwin James, it's Asante Samuel Jr. Look, I should actually amend that. I like the safeties. The corners are where you look at them and go, all right, because I like a loaded Gilman too. But it's a struggle right now. Like, they've got to win with their pass rush, which is a good pass rush. But if they don't win with that, they have problems. Now, if they win with that, and I think that's where the game is, by the way, because if they win with that, Nick's under pressure is a totally different guy than when he's not. When he can sit back there and set his feet and throw the ball, he's efficient. He'll take some shots. When he's under pressure, he's a mess. He's running around. He'll throw balls that they shouldn't throw. I think the problem for the Chargers might be in this game. I don't know that the Chargers can score. Denver is going to shut them down. I mean, Denver is defensively a phenomenal team. Number 1 in sacks in the league. You got Patrick Surtain. Looks like he's going to play, despite having to leave early against the Colts. They're very, very tough to score against. And if the Chargers can't get to 17 in this game, like, is there a world they win this thing 17-13? Yeah, maybe. But the Chargers, to me, this is a game of field position and winning on the margins. And the other problem they've had is recently they cannot run the ball without Dobbins. When Dobbins has not been, they just can't do anything. They couldn't run the ball against Kansas City. They couldn't run the ball against Tampa. I actually picked the Chargers in our picks because I just feel like Herbert has a shot to be the difference in this game. But I'm putting a lot of faith in Herbert because if he's not great, then I think Denver's probably better positioned to win the football game.
Yeah, I think the Chargers have a very unique situation because, like, they paid their quarterback. They have the quarterback, but they don't have much around him, and they're still trying to fix the salary cap. And then, like, it kind of makes you wonder, like, all right, I get it. It's different GM, different coaching staff, but, like, why are you paying this guy $55 million to, like, be kind of a game manager or a be safe guy? And, he's not doing too well. Like I get 2 interceptions, cool, but he has like 18 touchdowns. He's very conservative, very safe. Like you don't really do that with a star quarterback. Push that thing down the field, and he hasn't been able to do it. Party wants to give him a pass because he's dealing with injuries. Again, it's a reshuffling roster. You don't have a lot of weapons, but like you're making a lot of money, man. You got to step up and elevate the games of the people around you. But he hasn't done it. So part of me is like, is that unfair to say? I've seen this guy light it up like for 3 years. For 3 years that he did. It's just been a minute because last year he had a bunch of injuries too. He had Brandon Staley last year when that team pretty much checked out. So I kind of want to give him a pass, but part of me is like, you're making way too much money, man.
Yeah. Look, it's fair. That's completely fair. It's an interesting game. Again, if Denver wins, the Broncos clinch a playoff spot. And here, I'll just throw this out there since it's that time of year. I think this is interesting. The Broncos schedule the rest of the way at the Chargers, obviously, here on Thursday night. Then they go to Cincinnati, and then they host the Chiefs. They got to win one of them to make the playoffs. Denver, this is one of these things where, like, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but the pressure is going to get ratcheted up here with every game if they don't win. And here's another scenario to consider. The Bengals play the Browns this weekend. The Browns are beyond cooked. Yeah. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's probably going to start the game. Like, they're terrible. Okay, Chubb's on IR. The Bengals win that game, and the Broncos lose this week. The Bengals then play the Broncos week 17, and if the Bengals win, that's in Cincinnati. The Bengals win that game. Now, all of a sudden, if you're Denver, you have to beat the Chiefs week 18, or you're probably out because the Bengals would be playing the Steelers. Now, they could lose that game for sure. But, the Colts could win out, and the Dolphins have a shot to win out. I don't know if the Dolphins will win out. But the point is, like, there's a lot of scenarios here where Denver, if they don't win a game, not going to get in. You could argue this is their best shot to win a game. Because going to Cincinnati, they could certainly win. I mean, the Bengals have been a tire fire defensively. The Bengals could also score 45 points. So, and then the Chiefs, like, maybe the game means nothing. Maybe the Chiefs need it for a 1 seed, and they play as hard as they've played all year long. Like, Denver, I think, look, I think they're going to get in, but it's not a foregone conclusion. They need to win their games. All right, let's go to the Saturday games and the more AFC games. So Houston's at Kansas City to start 1 o'clock Eastern. And that line, by the way, if you're a bettor, has gotten all over the place because initially it was Chiefs by 3. Then Mahomes hurt his ankle. It was Houston by 3. It got bet down to Houston by 2. Now it's Chiefs by 3 again because Mahomes practiced fully. So you got Houston KC in the first game. And then the later game, 4:30 Eastern, Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Now to set the scene for this, okay, Houston has clinched the AFC South. They're not locked into the 4. They could technically move up still even to the 2. They can't be the 1. They could technically move to 2, but they're not going to be a 2. They're going to be a 3 or a 4 seed. They're not playing for a whole hell of a lot at this point. Kansas City needs to win at least, needs to win at least 2 of its last 3 games to be the number 1 seed. Any order, doesn't matter who they beat. They've got Houston, then they've got at Pittsburgh, at Denver. And then Pittsburgh and Baltimore, very simple for Pittsburgh. They win the division. That's it. That would clinch it. They would be up 2 with 2 games left, and they would have swept Baltimore. If Baltimore wins, they're tied. However, Pittsburgh remains in the lead based on conference record. So the Steelers would still hold the advantage, but at that point, obviously, it is a coin flip with 2 weeks left. And then, of course, the Steelers, as I mentioned, they play the Chiefs and the Bengals. The Ravens down the stretch have the Texans and the Browns. So you'd probably like what Baltimore's dealing with a little bit more there. What jumps out to you with those 2 games?
I guess I'm going to go with the Steelers here, and I'm starting to get a little concerned about them with the injuries. They're not really a very good team without George Pickens. Like, sure, they got Mike Tomlin. They're well coached and they have good defense, but without George Pickens, what do you really have offensively? I'm not going to trust Russell Wilson and Freiermuth and Najee Harris. You got to have that weapon and that element downfield. And it caught up to them against the Eagles. That was not even a close game. When Najee Harris fumbled, that was pretty much it right there. So, yeah, now you got to face an explosive Ravens team that, you held down, defensively and in the first meeting. And I guess there wasn't much of George Pickens in the first game and Russell Wilson. That was a very ugly game. That was a divisional matchup, and it was well coached by Mike Tomlin. But also you're wondering about TJ Watt too. So injuries are starting to get concerning for me. I know Mike Tomlin has Baltimore's number, but I don't see them winning this game. I think this might be one of these games where Baltimore's going to have an explosive game. They can't keep up. But, the thing about that, like, I'm not even sure I'm too worried about them because say you do lose to Baltimore, cool. Season series is tied here. Like you mentioned about the tiebreaker, they're pretty ahead in the AFC conference record, 7-2. And I think the Baltimore's 5-4 because that'd be the third one, I guess. It would be head to head and then divisional record. They might just end out with the same divisional record, 4-2 or 3-3, I guess, if things go really south for both teams. But then it'll be that one, the AFC record, and they're in a good spot right there. So, but then you have to you put pressure on yourself to beat. Is it the Bengals and the Chiefs the next 2 weeks?
Yep.
I could see Mike Tomlin getting. They're not gonna go 0-3 down the rest of the way because I trust this team to get it going. But it doesn't feel like it's gonna be their week against Baltimore because of all the injuries. And, sometimes you're just due to lose one to your rival here. So, but I still feel good about them to win the AFC North. And like you mentioned, Matt, maybe teams don't really care and they care more about the number 1 seed. So I would not be surprised if Mike Tomlin says, we're not going to mess around. Pickens and Watt, take a seat here and we'll get you ready for the playoffs.
So I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. I agree. I think Baltimore's going to win that game. So I'll go to the other game. I'll look at the Houston KC game, and I'll say, look, I don't know if there's a lot to look at here with Houston, just because they're going to be the 3 or the 4. I mean, you could say the Chiefs are going to be the 1 or the 2, but obviously it's more impactful based on which one they are. I'll take the Mahomes angle of all this, and I am going to zig when I think others might be zagging here. I have watched every snap of Mahomes' career probably 3 times over. Okay. They have been an abomination on offense at times this season. They cannot function because their left tackle is basically you and me rotating at left tackle. I mean, it is a disaster. But they and Mahomes are very funny in this regard. That every time it feels like you're like, oh, here it comes. Like everybody's got to shuffle and they're like ready to put the dirt on them. That's when the hand comes up and it's like, oh my God, like they're back. I feel like this is the classic game with this team. When everybody's looking at them and you're getting all these like Mahomes should sit takes and who the hell's playing left tackle and Anderson Jr. and Hunter, who are amazing, great players, both double-digit sack guys. They're going to just kill them. How can they deal with this? This is the classic game with them. I would be, from a Chiefs perspective, I'd be more nervous this week, and this is no disrespect to Houston at all. I'd be more nervous if they were playing like the Jets. Because that would be like the Chiefs wouldn't pay attention and they wouldn't care and they wouldn't be. They're going to hear all week. And Tim Settle Jr. also made a comment that's going to go around the Chiefs locker room like, well, I hope he's mobile because we're coming in Arrowhead. It's like, okay, we'll see. This is always the kind of game with them when everybody starts to kick that dirt where they're like, okay, like I could see Mahomes going for 290 and 3 touchdowns in this game because it's just, that's who he is. Because they're challenged and they're threatened and the offensive line knows he's hobbled and we got to protect them. They will play differently because of it. And defensively, Chris Jones might have 10 sacks in this game. Can Houston block him? I don't know. I mean, Houston hasn't been able to block at all. And I watched that Houston-Miami game. That was not an overly impressive showing by Houston. Stroud in that game, I want to make sure I'm right with this, but it was a minute amount of yardage. And pull this up. He, in that game, threw for, I think it was 131 yards. 131 yards and 5 yards per attempt. He did have 2 touchdowns, no picks. They were short throws, fine, for touchdowns. His QBR was 39.9, which I would say was pretty representative how he played in the game. They won the game because Tua was giving out turnovers like it was a Christmas department store with, three interceptions and a fumble. And the Dolphins, they continued their long-standing tradition of not beating anybody who's any good. But Stroud, and I'm not putting this on Stroud because their offensive line is atrocious. He's not played well this year. And their wins this season, I mean, here's who Houston has beaten this season. Indianapolis, Chicago, Jacksonville, then Buffalo, big win there. Indianapolis, Dallas, Jacksonville, Miami. I don't know. I just feel like this is the game with the Chiefs where everybody's going to be waiting for them to fall apart. And this is the game where Mahomes comes out and is like, watch this. And it throws, makes like 8 ridiculous throws. They're probably going to get Hollywood Brown back this week. So that's another factor in all this. The Chiefs, I just feel like this is that classic spot with this team where when everybody's kind of ready to look at them and go, are they really are they as good as they normally are? I feel like this is the game where they win like 27-10, and everybody's like, oh, okay, all right, like we'll see. Maybe Houston comes out and gets a big win, and the Chiefs are on the ropes as far as the one seed's concerned. But obviously here, both teams division winners and going to be there, and the Chiefs will be the one of the two, the Texans will be the three or the four, and we'll all go forward. But it's going to be very interesting Saturday afternoon of games.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Chiefs are going to win, and I agree with everything you said. And I'm going to defend myself because I made my pick when you see it for the SI Pick'em Challenge come out on Thursday.
You thought they were going to have to play Wentz?
Yeah, it was really early Tuesday. I'm like, our editor Mitch Golditch is like, "Hey, be on time." You know what? I'll be on time. I'll be one of the first people here. And at the time when I did my pick, it was -3 Houston, or -2.5 Houston to be the favorite. I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe Vegas knows something. You know how people always say Vegas knows everything. It's like, all right, maybe Wentz will play here. And I said, F it, give me Houston here. And I totally regret it because he was a full participant in practice. And I'm like, yeah, he usually plays these games. And I just kind of convinced myself, maybe this be the time they'll play it safe and rest him. But you're right. He usually finds a way to play, get on the field, and he does well. He won a freaking Super Bowl with a rolled ankle. So I don't know what I did. So I just want to defend myself and say, yeah, probably the case he's going to win. But I picked Houston. So in case you see that.
I'm going to out him. Our assistant editor does amazing work. By the way, I should say his name first. Mitch Golditch, who, if you haven't read it yet, he wrote a piece about how he worked with the Vikings grounds crew for a week. You have to read that story. I promise you it is worth it, whatever, 10 minutes or so. It is. Mitch just wanted to write that story for a long time, and he got the opportunity to do it. And to me, like, that kind of a story is why Sports Illustrated is what it is. If I can toot our own company's horn here for a second. Like, that's why you read Sports Illustrated. That's why you get the magazine. That's why you read, the work, not only our work, but, over at college, the college side of things, the NBA side of things, so on and so, baseball, all of it. Who else is writing about stuff like that? Like that is unique and it's different and it's fun. It's interesting. But Mitch is in charge of putting together our picks for the week. So we fill out the spreadsheet and then Mitch writes it up. And during the meeting we had, our weekly meeting on Tuesday, I said in the meeting, I'm like, he's going to play. Like, just trust me. I know this organization and I know the player. Like, he's going to play this game. So Mitch sent me like a Slack DM and was like, I'm paraphrasing. I picked the Texans, but I reserve the right to change my mind. And then like the practice report came out. He's like, oh God, I'm going to change my mind.
Oh, come on. I should have changed mine too.
I was going to say, you got to get in there, man. I don't know if the picks are out yet. You tell him. Like, I know what you did.
Yeah. I'm sure they're out. But at that time when you were talking about it, you were very confident. I was like, I probably should have changed it. And I did. I had time and I didn't do it. Yeah,
I always try to give inside information that I can share when I can, but in this case, this is not inside information. Like, I haven't even asked anybody with the team that I am familiar with, that I know. I don't even have to. Like, I know him enough to just know if that, like, it was like, now look, it's a different situation because it was the playoffs or anything else. But years ago, when he got hurt in the playoffs against Jacksonville, and there was all this question about, is he going to play in the AFC title game? I'm like, he's Patrick Mahomes, man. He's playing. And by the way, in that game, and then we'll move on. We'll get to the Sunday slate here as we start to wrap. So in that Sunday game that year against the Bengals, so the Bengals were actually favored because everybody was like, well, is he going to play? If he does play, what's it going to look like? Mahomes in that game, and I won't go through the whole thing, but they were missing a million receivers. They were down to like Marcus Kemp was catching the ball in the fourth quarter of that game. Mahomes that game threw for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it was okay. It worked out. Let's get to the Sunday games. Let's get into it. So some interesting games. Obviously, some really good ones Thursday and Saturday. But on the Sunday slate, I'll just blow through them here. We'll stop when we see a few interesting ones. It's not a great slate of games. Giants at Falcons, Lions at Bears, Browns at Bengals, Colts hosting the Titans. Yikes. Rams at Jets, Eagles at Commanders. That's a game we'll visit here in a second. Cardinals at Panthers, Vikings at Seahawks, important game. Pats at Bills, Jags at Raiders, in a game that if you watch, you should seek immediate medical attention. Niners at Dolphins, and then the Bucks at the Cowboys. And Monday night is the Saints at the Packers, which we're not going to touch on. The Packers are 2 touchdown favorites. They're going to kill the Saints. Um, let's go to Philly and Washington. Philadelphia's at Washington. Uh, if Philly wins, clinches the division. Commanders obviously trying to get in that playoff spot. They're right now the 7th seed in the NFC at 9-5. They're in good position, but it's certainly not a cinch that they're in. Seattle's behind them by a game at 8-6 in the wild card race. Do you think Washington can pull off the upset here and forget keeping the division alive? Because look, Philly's going to win the division. Or 3 games with 3 to go.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Washington wins and really puts itself in good position to make the playoffs?
I think they do. I'm not too confident, but I just, it was one of my F-it picks of the week for the upset. And I got burned the first time too, so I probably should learn my lesson because I picked Washington in the first meeting. And at the time, I thought, okay, is Philly really that good? They haven't really beat anybody. And then sure enough, they're really that good. They beat, the Rams, they beat the Ravens, they beat the Steelers, and they beat Washington pretty handily there. So they're the real deal. It's nothing against Philadelphia, but I said, why not? It's a divisional matchup. I know that Saints game was very ugly, and they probably should have won by a lot more. Maybe they're coming off a bye week and they're a little rusty. But maybe Jaden Daniels was healthier. I did like that Marshawn Lattimore played pretty well. I get that you're facing Jake Hayner and Spencer Rattler, and they're like, yeah, we see that guy at practice. We're not going to test him. He wasn't targeted once there, but I think he played pretty much all the defensive snaps there in his debut. Finally, what took so long, Marshawn Lattimore. So I feel better about that too. If Jaden Daniels gets the points on them, I want to see kind of a shootout. I want to see something where like, okay, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, where you're saying, hey, media, you want to see this? You want to see if we're friends? Well, first of all, that was annoying because AJ Brown was the one that called you out, not the media. Brandon Graham's the one who overspoke, not the media. But okay, Jalen Hurts, yes, right. You gave us what we wanted to see. Fine, you guys are okay, you're friends or whatever. But hey, how about a shootout where like, are you really back? Can you keep up with Jaden Daniels and McLaurin? This is me hoping for that. And okay, Hurts and AJ Brown go toe-to-toe there. It might be a Saquon Barkley game all over again. Maybe it's not even that close because the Commander secondary hasn't been good. But the Lattimore factor kind of gives me something to hope for here for a shootout. So I'm going to say it might get weird. It's a divisional matchup. Why not? Maybe they're due for a loss too, Matt. 10 games in a row that they've won. F it. That's one of my F it picks of the week there.
All right, so we're on opposite sides. I think Philadelphia's going to kill them.
Yeah.
Here's my reasoning. It's kind of like the Texans. Like, who have they beaten? Here's a list of who the Commanders have beaten this year. Giants, Bengals, Cardinals, Browns, Panthers, Bears, Giants, Titans, Saints. Now here's the good news if you're a fan of the Commanders. Last 2 games of the year, home to Atlanta, and then at Dallas. Like, I think probably going to win those games. And by the way, I'm a Commanders guy. Like, I remember I went on the radio in D.C. right before the season. I mean, right before the season. And they're like, who do you think might surprise this year? And I wasn't doing it to curry favor. I was like, I actually think Washington might be somewhat interesting. So, no, I didn't know, I didn't pick them to win 10 games. I thought they might be like a 9-win team, but here we are. No, I like Philly in the game. I think Washington will make the playoffs. But I like Philly. I just think Philadelphia right now is playing the best football of anybody in the NFC, and that's because I want to get to this quickly here. Look, the Lions are just. Oof. It's not their fault. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just hurt. They're insanely beat up. They're playing the Bears this week. Then they go play the Niners on a Monday night in San Francisco, Week 17, for a short week to come home to play the Vikings. Do you think they're going to hold on and win the division? Do you think they're going to be the 1 seed?
Detroit, right? I don't have a power ranking. That's kind of Orr's job, but part of me feels like it's Philadelphia, but like it doesn't feel right because the Lions should be the number 1 team in the NFL, should be the number 1 team or number 1 seed in the NFC. But I'm very concerned about the injuries. Like honestly, like I'm not to give myself credit, but when people freaked out about Aiden Hutchinson, I'm like they'll be fine. Enough depth, enough talent on the roster, well coached. And now that's all gone. Like the depth is gone. They're struggling to field the roster on defense, and then. Not even that. They lost pretty much their heart and soul on the offensive side with David Montgomery. He's a tone setter. He's a closer. And I'm actually curious to see how Jahmyr Gibbs does in that, full-time role. He's a great talent. Right. He's probably going to do well. But it was a luxury to kind of go in the second quarter when all these teams are beating down defensively because they're trying to keep up with David Montgomery being a physical runner that he is. So it's all going to change there. So it's not just defense. It's offense. And then the reason why you were holding it down without Hutchinson for so long, Aaliyah McNeil in the middle is an enforcer.
Great
People
player.
don't, they don't talk about him enough. That's why he got paid in Detroit. They know very well what he brings to the table. So your two best players defensively are out. Now you're going to ask DJ Reader and Zadarius Smith to be pretty much number one players and throw back the clock on a weekly basis. The secondary is not very good. They lost Carlton Davis III. We'll see if he plays. I think he has a broken jaw. But they weren't even good with them on the field. And the linebackers are just decimated, right? And I can't even name one that's healthy. But you know these very, very well about the injuries. So I'll keep it short. I'm very concerned, and I don't think maybe they'll win the division. I could see them maybe beating Minnesota. But I'll say this. They should definitely adjust with the coaching philosophies, with the scheme, and the next two games. Maybe that costs you, but you're playing the Bears and the shorthanded 49ers team. So when you come to Minnesota, all the adjustments are made. You're ready to go. New game plan. Maybe win the division there, but maybe number one seed is going to go to Philadelphia.
Yeah. I think that's all fair. Like I think Philly's the one seed, and Detroit. I really think it comes down to does Minnesota win these next two games? So I think Minnesota's going to beat them if they play them. Week 18, they mean something. How the hell is Detroit going to stop them? What is Detroit going to do? That's the problem. I mean, Detroit, I think they're going to beat the Bears, so I think Vanderbilt would beat the Bears right now. Okay, but the Niners game, they could lose that game. The Niners are not going anywhere, but could they score 30 points in that game? Yeah, maybe. I just really felt bad for Detroit. I mean, this is a team and a fan base that has just suffered and suffered and suffered. Man alive, they've just been destroyed by injuries because they've been the best team in football all year long. And now all of a sudden you're looking at them like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know if they could do it. I mean, Carlton Davis, he's out 6 weeks with the jaw. It's just, I don't know where they go. But I think Philly's going to be the one seed. And I also feel like if Detroit's got to go to Philadelphia in the NFC title game, that's a big ask, man. That is a hard place to play. Goff splits at home and on the road are insane. Especially outdoors, cold weather, all that stuff. I think you probably have to like the Eagles at this point. All right, last game to talk about quick, then we'll get out of here. Vikings at Seahawks. So we're going to find out a little bit more about Geno Smith today as this practice comes out. We don't know that right now. Don't know if it's going to be him or Sam Howell. I'll keep it short and sweet. I like Minnesota in this game. I just think Minnesota's flat out better. And, there's this thing about not believing in the Vikings. And I get it. The muscle memory we all have with the Vikings is, okay, well, they're the Vikings. They find ways to lose, and it's a team you don't really ever believe in. I mean, Darnold's thrown for 3,500 yards and 29 touchdowns against 11 picks. Aaron Jones is having a great year. He's going to rush for well over 1,000 yards. Justin Jefferson's Justin Jefferson. He's amazing. Jordan Addison might crack 1,000 yards. Defensively, they get after you. Van Ginkel's got 9 sacks. Gennard's got 11 sacks. Pat Jones has 7 sacks. I mean, as a team, they have 42. They create turnovers. They got 20 picks on the year. They're really well coached. They play really good football. They win a lot of games. I like Minnesota to go into Seattle and win this game. I think it's going to start to shake out in the NFC. The Rams are going to win the NFC West. And I think the Vikings are going to continue to make a push for, by the way, if the Vikings win out, they're the 1 seed. So I think the Vikings are going to continue to push. I like them in this spot, no matter who the quarterback is for Seattle.
Yeah, the thing about the Vikings, like you mentioned, people have that muscle memory. Oh, yeah, they're kind of the chokers and they don't really do well. They're finding ways to win all kinds of games, even the ugly games, even the Chicago Bears game, they probably should have won by 40 points, really. But it was an ugly game, and even that was still a lopsided game. So I get the Jacksonville game lingers in people's minds. The first game against the Bears lingers in people's mind. But, they won those games. They were in control until the end. They were making late pushes here. So they're winning ugly games, close games, shootouts. So I'm very impressed with the Vikings team, and I can't make a case for Seattle. What happened against Green Bay? You had Green Bay at home. I know I wanted to get on Seahawks bandwagon, but they played a bunch of so-so teams to win those 4 games in a row. They're probably a total pretenders in my eyes right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's fair. All right, before we get out of here, what's going on as you get ready here for the holidays?
Not much. Maybe I mentioned this before, but December is just hectic month, but birthdays for siblings, and then my partner's has some family birthdays too. So my sister had a birthday on Tuesday, which we'll celebrate on Friday, and then her brother has a birthday coming up on Saturday, which we'll celebrate on Saturday. So a lot of gatherings for before Christmas.
Good stuff. Yep, I got the parents in town for Christmas. That's good. I'm happy to report my back is finally where it needs to be. So
Good
that's nice.
news.
Yes,
Nice.
yeah, 2 months of a lot of fun. Yeah, chiropractor man just jumps on me, and somehow it works. I don't know. I don't ask questions. Um, but it's crazy, man. The body. You're like, I went in. They're like, yeah, your SI joints are screwed up. Just ironic SI. I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, he's like, well, I got to work on you like 3 times a week, and we can move them. And I'm thinking like, okay, in my head, like a moron, I'm thinking like, okay, you could probably gotta move these things halfway around my body. I'm like, how far do you gotta move? He's like, 2 millimeters. I was like, 2 millimeters? That's the problem? Yep. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So he's like, well, yeah, you have 4 vertebrae that are kind of out of place too, but he's like, it's mostly your SI joint. I'm like, wow. All right. So he just cranks for about 10 minutes. And I walk out of there and I'm like, wow, yeah, that pretty much is what it is. And it's still a little sore, but like it doesn't stop me from doing anything, so I don't really care that it's a little sore. But yeah, I shout out to Saltus Chiropractic, getting it done. Never gone to a chiropractor before in my life, but was so fed up. Like, fine, I'll give this a shot. Great, great. At least for me, it's worked. So, but other than that, man, yeah, just getting ready for the holidays, buying gifts for the kiddos. Um, Other than that, we got a big Christmas party on Saturday that we have every year at the house.
Mm,
We're
nice.
gonna have a lot of people over, and you know, Chiefs Texans is right before that party starts. So we'll see how things play out at the household. But yeah, it'll
You
be.
should probably invite the doctor for being, such a being a great guy and helping you out with the back problems, man.
I really should. He's like a family friend too. I really actually should. I'm a terrible person. I invite the doctor. But yeah, no, it's gonna be one of those things where it's like you cook a ton of food and then you have so much food left over. We're gonna have enough food to last us about a week. Nobody's cooking dinner for a week. Let's put it
That's the
that way.
best. Yeah, you're set.
But other than that, man, that's it. So listen, everybody out there, thank you for listening and or watching. Appreciate you. Make sure to subscribe to the MMQB podcast if you haven't already. You get our show. You get Connor Orr and Albert Breer as well every week. And Breer's always doing it from a hotel room. So yeah, the man is a man of mystery. God knows where he is. But listen, thank you for being here. Appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll talk to you again soon. But until then, happy holidays and enjoy week 16 in the NFL.